Or you could choose to ignore it. It said that maybe red wine isn't great for me, but red wine and I have been in a deeply committed relationship.
Red wine's great for everyone.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
That was a false
Yeah.
negative.
I was like, that's not accurate.
Yeah, I would.
Lab tests are wrong all
So
the
you
time.
get a different test. That's a terrible. That machine must have been out of calibration because I have seen you drinking red wine and it always goes well.
It goes great.
Every time.
Every time.
Welcome to Boombastic Health, where we challenge the business of healthcare and explore bold ideas that drive meaningful change. Each week, we bring you candid conversations with top experts, innovators, and leaders, exploring the latest trends and technologies shaping the future of healthcare. Join us and be part of the conversation in transforming healthcare. Hey everyone, welcome to our next episode of Boombastic Health. This is actually episode 20, so a major milestone, and I couldn't think of a better guest than my good friend Scott Jared, who is an entrepreneurial wealth management leader and takes a really uncommon approach that I appreciate. Many times in wealth management, folks are only fixated on putting you into some kind of publicly traded stocks or exchange traded funds. And for a business owner and operator entrepreneur like me, I really appreciate having more of a holistic view of what all is going on in my financial world, especially because a lot of the really interesting stuff is more in my private companies. And so Scott and I have gotten to know each other through really growing up in the business community in Indianapolis, and he'll tell more of his story. But as Scott has grown in his knowledge, he's also become an author, actually Wall Street Journal best-selling author, which is pretty sweet. And he has a new book, Accelerate, which I would highly recommend picking up a copy. And then your previous book is Future Hack, right?
Yep.
Future Hack.
Prior book, yes.
Yeah, the prior book, and also an excellent read. So thanks so much for being on this show, Scott. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah. So and by the way, the main topic here and why this is relevant for Boombastic Health is it doesn't really matter if you have a lot of capital and financial freedom if you're not healthy. And so a big part of this overall picture is we need to be doing things as aging individuals that help us slow down the clock or reverse it a little bit. And I will say that Scott and I think, have a pretty consistent philosophy on more than anything, you need to actually go do things with your body, like work out. And so this morning we hit the gym a little bit.
Absolutely, every day.
Yeah. So Scott, actually, having him up here in Chicago, we went and hit Lifetime Fitness this morning. It's a pretty awesome gym, and Emily joined us as well, which is great to get our bodies moving. And so there are other things that you can do, obviously, for your health as well. I believe in functional medicine, which is just, I think, a fancy way of saying what kind of deficiencies do you have that you could supplement that could help you feel better, look better, be better. And
Absolutely.
I'm curious, like, is that something you think about as well? Is that part of your routine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say if you're going to manage someone's entire financial ecosystem, everything comes down to process. Like, how do you process? How do you understand the information that's there? And you create process for everything that you do. So if you start programming your dollars to work and you program your money to work in a certain way, that's the wealth side. But if you don't have the health, then how good is the money?
Right.
And they actually are correlated very exactly.
So people who are healthier, do they make more money? Is there any correlation there?
I would say that there would be correlation to the people that are good in their head and they're good in their body and they're good in their soul are more productive than people that aren't. Which then, if you add value and you're productive, then value creation typically means opportunities and money.
Right.
It attracts each other.
And it's more fun.
And
as well.
so, yeah, but if you don't start your day right, if you don't get your flow going, so everyone's got unique gifts. It's just untapping those. But if you don't start out taking care of yourself, how are you going to serve others?
Right. Yeah. And we were talking
That's it.
before the show started about some of these rituals, like taking a super ice cold shower, which I think is at least an awesome way to wake up. But I think there are also some potential health virtues from that: blood flow, stimulation.
Yeah.
What else? Do you know what else the cold shower is supposed to
I'll
do?
tell you right now, if your money's not flowing, it's not good. Like, it's like if you have a blood clot and it gets stuck somewhere, you're like, that's bad. So what the cold shower does, it gets your blood moving, it gets in your extremities, it gets you woke, it moves. And we want the flow of things. And so the cold shower, what that does, it just shocks the system. It's like, oh, I've got to do something. So your body's absorbing and protecting itself, and that blood flow creates so much good in your body.
Right.
From what they say, I just know I feel better,
Yeah.
not while I'm doing it, but after.
Right.
And that becomes now a habit. And if you can do really good habits over time, then those become things that just make you better. So all it is habit forming. So how well you can give really good habits, and it takes 20 days to build a habit. So
Really?
if health
Okay.
is important to you, then what if you just did every day, you did 100 push-ups? It's not gonna take that long, and did a cold shower. Maybe that's the start.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's certainly a good habit for me because it helps me wake up. But I think it's an interesting parallel to talk about your money flowing, meaning you're putting it to work. It's moving in ways that generates additional wealth. And thinking about the body as a metaphor for that is interesting. So I kind of jumped right over the actual introduction of your firm. So Scott's firm is Invst,
Yes.
spelled INVST.
Yes, we can't spell, but we should. Invest.
Hey, this is perfect.
The E is about the experience. Yeah.
Okay. So, Scott, tell us about, people are always, we have a lot of viewers and listeners who are business leaders or entrepreneurs or people who are looking to do something disruptive in healthcare.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear your just quick introduction and story about how was it hatched?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I grew up with no money. It was in a family that was always trying to fight for it, and resources were scarce. And I learned that if you can just design the future that you want, and if you want something bad enough and you live in this country, you can actually go get it. And that's when I learned about abundance, that there's so much resources that are available to you. I never had money. I always knew that it was important because it gave you freedom to spend the time with people that you wanted. It gives you ability to have resources. So there's certain freedoms that were there. So when I went to college, it was more about, how do I get a job or get something so I can get money so I can have these freedoms? I didn't realize I was searching for freedom because I wanted to have control of my destiny. I wanted to be able to make decisions on my terms versus someone else's. And I found that was what people were always searching for. And I felt like if we were going to start a business, even though I had no financial background at all, I just knew that money is probably something you should know. And the other thing you should really know is have a really good doctor, because if you can't live and you don't have money. So my philosophy was, well, you should do one of those two things: be in healthcare or no money. But I'm not going to be a doctor. I didn't understand that. I wasn't even understanding what that all meant. So we're like, why can't we just create a company that helps people live a life that they want, whatever it is? It's not my job to tell them what it is. So the first book, Future Hack, was a hack is a simple solution to a common problem. The common problem is, how do you live the life you want? Now, if I can show you how to do it faster, and I can give you tools, hacks, shortcuts, things that you can do, like the cold shower, get up, do this. Now you can start to do those things, and value creation creates money. And then if we can help with this whole ecosystem, that's what it was. So we literally said, how do we make money work for you so that you can live the life you want? And if we could have 1 million people finding freedom in however they want to design it, I felt like we could change the world. So Invst stood for something, not investing in just stocks or investing in your business or real estate, which we love that stuff. But that's not your most important asset. People forget that. It's you. And if you don't focus on you as the center of the universe, then everything else fails. So how do you manage your entire ecosystem, but how do we manage you? So how do you know where you are in your mind and your body, spiritually, all three legs of the stool working together? Because if one gets off balance, it falls over.
Yeah.
That's it. So
And
Invst is
certainly-
about that.
Right. No, it makes a ton of sense. And certainly you practice what you preach. I've been into the gym in your building, and
Yeah.
I did most of the stuff, although I did pull-ups instead of climbing that rope. You were pretty impressive. You were just shooting up that rope. I was thinking, man,
Well, you should.
how is he going to get down? And then you did.
So there's techniques.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Everything has a
Right.
technique.
Yeah, you need a technique. Yeah, I need some training on the rope climb.
But when you walk in our office, it's not an office. It's a place for people to create.
It feels like a community.
It's a community.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It's a place for people to be so they can become better
Yeah.
at whatever that is for them, whether it's speaking in a podcast or if it's in the gym or that. So
Yeah, well, and you even have supplements, I noticed, in the refrigerator, and it's really cool. It's a great environment, and it puts into practice what you're preaching, and feels the opposite of a stuffy wealth management office. It's like, how do we design this overall world? And when I think about the world I want to feel good. I want to look good. I want to be healthy. I want to have friends and be part of interesting communities. I want to spend time with family members that I love. I want to travel and all of that.
Yeah.
I think your point about it has to be about you. At some point, you have to realize that if you don't look out for your own interests, nobody else will.
right. If you don't have an agenda for yourself, someone else has one for you.
Right. And so you have to own that. And it's not a selfish thing in a negative way. It's more, I think your point's a good one. You can't give in a productive way if you're not healthy, if you don't feel good, you don't look good, and you don't feel like comfortable in your own skin. You know, it's interesting. Have you seen the movie? For some reason, I always harken back to Arnold Schwarzenegger in these episodes. I don't know why, but
He knows fitness.
but yeah, that's probably part of it. So Total Recall, remember that movie?
Oh yeah.
And remember the whole core premise was no matter where you go, there you are. Like, what's never different? Remember that when he goes to meet with the travel company where they can embed the memories in your brain, and he says, well, what is it that you really do? And he said, well, what's the same every single place you go? What? I don't know. What is it? It's you. You're always the same.
Yeah.
And then they would embed a memory into your brain that you had this experience as a completely different person. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then while they were hacking into Arnold's brain, they uncovered that he was this secret agent that had been like reprogrammed to forget about all of this stuff he had done. And then his veins start bulging and he tears out of the machine. And so it's killing everything. But anyway, I think
you're doing this week. Maybe.
I think the concept you're talking about is sort of related to that, where it's you have to decide what you want to be.
And that's exactly it. Like, you could be this massive ball of muscle like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but your mind is the most important asset. And if you aren't in flow every single day, you can't give out. The problem, you made a good comment. You said, like, it's not selfish or it's not something to take care of you. I think it's your duty to take care of you, because there's people that count on you. I don't care what you do. There's someone that's counting on you, whether you're a stay-at-home mother or you're a whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, and in our case as entrepreneurs, you've got maybe hundreds of families and people that are depending on you to help them be in a position to be successful.
Yeah.
And you do, I think about it from just the human condition reality. There are those days where you just feel like you could conquer everything. And the more of those days you have,
that's flow.
That's flow. Yeah. Which is where high skill meets high challenge.
Right.
Is how
I guarantee you, if we did not work out this morning, we did not do the cold plunge or the cold shower, that we would not be ready to take on the challenges of the day. I mean, I get out every day. I get 100 text messages, about 450 emails. The points of contact are there. But if the support team around me and everyone isn't there handling that, and they're not in their right frame of mind, there's people that are counting on this to work. Just like in your business, healthcare, or anyone listening to this podcast, like, if you can't show up and you don't lead by example, then other people don't. And it's based off of those habits and those things of how you program yourself to become, these are becoming just something that's natural. and it becomes part of your cadence. This is what we do. And then you're doing it no different than total recall. And I believe that your present position is everything. In money, they talk about financial planning. Like, what's that? Like, there's no plan, because all that changes is everything. There's nothing constant in the world but change.
Yeah, was it Mike Tyson? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
So your plan is to retire and do all this stuff, but the market just dropped 4% today. I hope you don't need that money for right now. Does that work? Compound interest works great until it doesn't, because you are human, and you may need something, or you may get sick, or you may get disabled.
And your health can change that way as well. You know, it's interesting when you think about fitness and the fact that if you're really on top of your fitness, you have a process where you don't overtrain a given body part. You rotate. So certain days you're doing upper body, other days legs, you're doing cardio sometimes in the cardio classes, I'll do super steep incline walking, and it actually is a really challenging workout. It just hits different muscles. And it sounds like that's a parallel that you folks teach in your wealth management as well, where if you can get your system set up the right way to manage and focus on developing your body, do that same thing with your assets, where you've got certain things where you might be in a income generating investment. And in other areas, it might be more about enterprise value creation, where it's a high growth technology company, for example. And how do you make sure you're providing the right level of focus to each of those things? And it sounds like similar to, say, a personal trainer or the person who led the lifetime workout this morning, that Invst operates sort of like that, like your personal trainer for your money.
Yes, everything's measurable. Everything's got philosophy built into it. You made another good point. You believe in functional medicine. I believe that the world is always changing, and you can't build a plan for things that change. The only thing you can control is what you do right now, just like Arnold did. He's there. He's in the moment. This is what it is. So the only thing you can do in your body is you need to know, just like in your money, every dollar is programmed to go work. There's only 20 things in your financial life. We organize them in a financial game board, so you can see them together, and they inversely correlate. Everything is correlated. It's like you go to the doctor and say, oh, I got a blood clot, but my shoulder hurts. They go operate on the shoulder, find out the blood clot's the thing's going to kill you. They did it out of order. So I think your money decisions are made out of order. So then when it comes to you, do you know why you work? Do you understand what the 8 questions you must ask yourself of, like, if something were to happen to you today, did you live a life of significance? Was it done? Like, what else could you accomplish? And a lot of times you can't even show up because everything else is taking priority because you haven't taken care of yourself. And that is not selfish, because that's important that you are well, but there's certain vitals and things that say, this is where I'm at. So functional medicine is all about, where are my vitals? Like, we both know today how much sleep we did or did not get. We know exactly how our bodies are, because we're measuring not only our health, but we're also measuring our wealth. And if you are your most important asset, why aren't we managing you as an asset? No different than a business, a piece of real estate. It's all 20 areas, but you are the most important thing. So in our world, every client that comes in our office, there's 2 things for sure it's going to happen. We know change is always going to happen, but you're going to die one day, and you're going to pay taxes. Like, those are the 2 uncertainties. There's certainties.
The 2 things you can't avoid are death and taxes.
So if I'm building a financial strategy do you even know your mortality? Do you even know? So
nobody knows.
Everyone comes in our office. We do medical exams on them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be the first person to live to 150.
Yeah. So if you live to 150 and you're a vegetable and you're not living the life you want, is that good?
I think, when I hit 40, I started counting down. And so, I guess I'll start counting up again.
The game is longevity.
Right.
That's the new game.
Yeah.
And everyone's about longevity. And that's the thing, is if I can design my life to live to 150, what do I need to do now to wind back my age? That's the game.
Right.
And so now, and if you have wealth, now you can start to play that. But why would you just start when you're in your 50s? Why didn't you start when you were 20? Why weren't we engineered this way sooner to understand how our body works? What are the main things that we need to know? So everyone that comes in our office, we want to know their human life value. Everyone's priceless because they add value to the world, but there's,
Not everyone.
yeah,
Maybe all your clients, but no.
I see what you're saying. The reality is that everyone's got an economic value from what they've created and like what they've generated as far as economic output. But there's also insurance companies that will say, based off of these vitals, this is how long we expect you to live based off of the population. Functional medicine saying, okay, what if inflammation went down? What if you didn't just build really strong muscles, because then you have no mobility? What if your nutrition was off? So now we're like, well, if you're tightly wound and you slip out of the shower and you pull a quad tendon, we know that any surgery you have reduces your life by this. So now it's focused on mobility, strength. Like our friend that was at dinner, he's 61 years old, and you would think the guy's 20 and he's out there doing bombers down the mountain.
And
like
part of it is his energy.
And his energy's out of control. Like, what are you doing? Do you get up and take a bottle of Adderall every day? Or like, what do you do? But you know what? I have a great wife. I love my family. I have purpose and all that. And so like people say, oh, you're a financial advisor, I want to retire. I was like, why the hell would you retire?
Well, what does that even mean? Yeah, I think
I'll tell you what
your point earlier about freedom, I think
Yeah.
retirement in the classic sense was based on people working in coal mines or farm
100%,
fields or
yeah.
lifting hay bales. And at some point you say, I don't want to do that anymore because my body's broken down. But now that we live in this age of intelligence and that it's intellectual capital that you're trading on,
Yes.
why in the world would you want to just let that go? I don't understand. I do not understand the traditional idea of retirement. I don't.
Because the financial institutions want to separate you from your money. So if I can get you to focus on a need that may not exist, because if you really define retirement, what's it mean? It means you're taken out of use. Who wants to be taken out of use?
Yeah, it's like end of life.
Right. So if you're retired and you retire at the average age of 65, but you want to live to 150, and I said that you can't do anything within your business again, how good would your quality of life be?
I took a couple weeks
about
off once and I thought, what in the world is going on? My mind was constantly thinking about
Yes.
the things that I wanted to be doing and creating. And I think the people who are the healthiest that I know, they're builders or they're people who have passion. And I will say though, there's the type of next phase where you've been doing a certain job to create wealth.
Yeah.
And you decide I've got a different passion. And maybe that passion is hiking
Yeah.
or it's music, or I think I've seen this happen though with aging where certain people, they stop working, they've got no interests and they just turn into
die.
nothing. Yeah. It's like there's a person there, but they're just a shell of themselves.
So why retire? It's called work optional. Now you're designing the life that you want, whatever that is. But if your health isn't there, then you're not going to have a good quality of life. And we got to focus on how do you have all disciplines of health balanced. It's all about balance. And when things get out of balance, like a teeter-totter, how do we get it back in line? Like if you get one thing off too far, then the other one, and it's for you, it's for your family, it's the future you design for yourself, and your money. All that is the resource to allow you to spend your money, to spend your time with the people you want to be and live the purpose that you deserve.
Right.
That's it.
So is Warren Buffett the person who's widely quoted as talking about if you do the thing you love, then you don't work a day in your life or whatever?
Yeah.
Is that,
I mean, he's got a lot
there
of
are people who
Buffettisms.
say that.
But here's a guy who's almost 100 years old
Yeah.
that just readjusted his portfolio to a certain thing, never spent any of his money. And what's he want to do? He wants to give it away, all of it, to make humans better. Like think about that. So like his purpose and why he's going to live so long is because he's doing what he wants to do.
Right.
If you look at the mortality of a president, look at all the presidents that have ever died. Like the average death of these guys are like 90 years old.
Right.
But why is it the average American dies? Well, it's because they've had some purpose of what they were trying to shoot for. But if you just look at some of those things, you see there's commonalities of people that are living this purpose-driven life in some way, that they now got to take care of themselves because they're doing something for the betterment of something else. And if you take that away, whether it's your career, your profession, is because in that side, there's three legs: your personal, your profession, and your business. Like those are three legs still. If one gets off balance, then, but this to me is you're interviewing because you're actually curious about how other people do things. And if other people can see that, that's a professional development thing that also plays into your personal life.
Yeah, it's energizing for me. I look forward
everything.
to every single one of these conversations, and I'm lucky to have friends like you who are willing to have the conversation. And my core takeaway from what you just said is there's a really big connection between your mind and your body and your longevity. And there are some things that happen where your genetics or you have a mutation or something that just goes haywire. There's nothing you can do about it. You can have the best mindset in the world. So it's not to say that mindset fixes it, but if you have no catastrophically bad health issues, like my mother who had stage 4 colon cancer, she was the most positive person ever, had a lot to look forward to, was always doing things that she loved, and was a teacher and just super great, very well read. And you can't avoid that, sadly. Now, you could have, though, by being more proactive. If she had had colonoscopies, she would be here today.
Yes.
So I, of course, do get colonoscopies. That's a public service announcement. If you haven't had a colonoscopy, get one. It's a really straightforward way to extend your life. But there's a lot you can do proactively and preventatively, and part of it's functional medicine. So switching gears, Scott, your new book, Accelerate. What should readers expect to gain from picking that book up?
Yeah. The goal of the book is there's principles, just like in your health, there's only 6 key principles that you need to be aware of that will help you find financial freedom faster than without them. And what people are looking for is a process, an operating system, a way to be able to know that if I do this, this is the outcome I would get. And in the book, it demonstrates that, and how to take back control of your entire financial life and you. And that's what the book is all about. And I designed it in a very simple way where it's easy to understand that there's really only 6 key principles to live in the life you want. And at the center of it, it's you, it's your family, and your future. And if you just follow the process, because we've done it so many times for so many different people, it actually works. So if you have an operating system for your life, that gives you some frameworks, gives you some boundaries, it just gives you things to work within.
So based on experience that you've gathered through the course of your career, you've taken the top 6 principles that you see utilized to have people live the life that they want.
Yes.
And that includes being healthy physically and monetarily. So both sides of that work for you. And clearly within that movement, there's a big economic opportunity. And we see a lot of people getting into this. I was actually talking to a friend the other day about the cryotherapy world, for example, which I really didn't know anything about. And
it's a big business.
Yeah, come to find that that's a business that is theoretically helping to extend people's lives, but there's this whole new awakening where people are being proactive and doing things to take better care of themselves so you can live longer, do better, do more, and ideally stay sharp and stay into the things that you're passionate about.
Well, that's the game, is like, what good is wealth if you don't have your health? And how do you extend your longevity? How do you extend your quality of life? That's it. That's the thing that everyone's trying to solve.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it's the communities you're part of as well. I think that when you're around people that energize you and make you feel happy and make you a better version of yourself, that's the kind of life that becomes this like really well-lived situation. And I'll say as we kind of round the corner here to conclude, Scott's company, Invst, is sponsoring an IndyCar for the 2nd year in a row.
Yes.
And last year it was the whole series. This year, very focused on Indy 500, which is where Invst is headquartered, where my companies are headquartered in Indianapolis.
Yes.
We've got the number 24 car with Jack Harvey.
Yep.
And the Dreyer and Reinbold racing team. And I think that's another really cool metaphor, the idea of being a high performance race car and winning, where you've got to push to these certain limits and do that in a way where you achieve flow. I think that's one of the reasons that you're into this, is because it is a parallel to money and health and performance.
Yeah, there's the collective ambition of winning an Indy 500, like drinking the milk, is there's really no money in racing. Like always, the jokes are
you don't win a big purse at the end, like in a golf PGA tournament where you can win $7 million for winning the tournament. You win the Indy 500, it's about sponsorships and it's about the achievement.
It's about the collective ambition of the team, the driver, the fans, the sponsors all coming together to create something that's bigger than themselves. Is how you build the largest spectacle in racing. It's the largest sporting event in the world. And it's that. And when you got unique abilities of people that are all doing that at a high level, it's like for Jack, like he's in flow when he's in there and he feels the track, he feels the car, how it's working. The engineers understand what's happening within that. The sponsors are doing the business to business stuff that allows this thing to happen. And then there's an outcome of unbelievable achievement from not only seeing that at the high level, but then there's all these other side byproducts of companies that do well. Like we had the wounded veterans out at the St. Pete race that one of our clients is doing the wound care stuff for. So they're there, and now we have this whole thing. My friend that was paralyzed was out there talking about their impossible dream on a sailboat, so they can use these things as a way to get on the national stage.
Sure. So there's a lot of good you can do.
There's a lot of good.
Affects a lot of people.
Yep. And then so you can do it. So there's a lot of charities and people that do. There's a lot of health and things that are inside that. But that's what community is, and that builds. It's just like another way to build community. Is really what those things are.
Yeah, and some of it's doing business and having fun, like we did at the Super Bowl, where it's a business endeavor, but it's also a heck of a lot of fun.
Yes.
So, well, Scott, I think this is the start of a continuing conversation about how health, it becomes integral to your overall success. That does also equate to how successful you can be from a money perspective. And I really appreciate the business relationship we've built, the friendship that we have. Also appreciate you being a friend of the Boombastic Health podcast.
Been great.
So thanks for being with us here today.
Absolutely.
Make sure you pick up Accelerate when you get a chance by Scott Jarrett. And next up, we'll have Emily come on and we'll do the verdict and chat a little bit more about all these aspects of health and well-being that are so incredibly important. Well, welcome to the episode 20 Verdict with Emily. We just had Scott Jarrett here, the CEO and founder of Invst, who spends a lot of time thinking about how health connects to performance and ultimately accrues to your benefit with achieving financial freedom. So Emily and I have not historically had this type of a podcast where there's not a specific legal angle necessarily.
Yeah.
But I think there is an angle as it relates to how you've set up a system for yourself personally to be at your best. And I know I've always been impressed with your discipline, which has been helpful for me as well to realize that, for example, getting up at 4:30 a.m. to go work out at 5 is for the best because it just gets everything going. And I'm curious to hear your point of view on how fitness and health physically translate to being a high performer from a business perspective.
Yeah, I think as a high performer and a professional, you have a ton of different stressors. And the way for me that I've always alleviated that stress is by going to the gym. I grew up, I was an athlete, played basketball, played softball, and that was sort of my release. And so professionally, right, I deal with client crises all day long and I get so spun up and it's stressful. And to start my day off by releasing that tension and getting that out of the way so I can sort of like get back to my baseline so that I can anticipate and handle the challenges of the day with a bit more of an open mind and clear mind because I'm not so high strung. And, you know, as a busy professional, scheduling and being intentional about putting that into your day and starting your day like that is so much better than when I skip a workout and I'm like, oh, I'm too busy or too tired and I'll get it done later because inevitably we're busy. So something's going to come up, and then I don't get my workout done, and then I'm super stressed out, and I feel like I work not to the best of my ability. I don't parent to the best of my ability. All of those things become like a little bit more strained and chaotic.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is having a system, as Scott was describing, that makes it so the fitness part of your day is non-negotiable.
Right.
It's a core part, just like any scheduled meeting with a really important customer. And I think this idea of making you at the center of this machine and saying, hey, one of the things I need to do to keep things moving and flowing successfully is to get that workout in is important. Now,
and you mentioned the idea of a routine taking 3 weeks or 20 days to start, and it's totally true. And the first time you get out of bed at 4:20, it's not fun, right? And you're like, gosh, this sucks, especially in the wintertime. And then you start to see how it changes your energy, and you might get up earlier, but you have more energy throughout the day. And so after you establish that routine, to your point, it becomes like, I can't function unless I do this.
Yeah, part of my routine that, as I reflect, was probably about that 3-week mark where it's what I do and I don't like it when I don't do it, is the cold shower.
Yeah.
And
Do that.
I turn the shower down as cold as it can be. And in this recent trip to British Columbia with this group of friends to go heli skiing and heli boarding, I got in the shower there, and it's probably because they're getting literally mountain spring water in their water supply, but it was so cold that it made my hair feel like it was turning into icicles.
That
it was
sounds
like
awful.
frozen.
That sounds
And
lovely.
I felt so alive after that. And then I went right into the workout. Actually, every day we did yoga. And I found out a friend of mine, Tag Burge, who's a real estate developer from Indianapolis, he's doing yoga, I think he said every morning, or at least stretching every morning for like an hour. I thought that was fascinating. And I think historically, I haven't really valued the stretching aspect of my workouts. I was more focused on lifting and cardio. But getting into yoga, that seems like if you can master that and get it as to be, part of your routine, it's a pretty big game changer.
I have leaned into yoga because as I age, I find that I injure myself more frequently in the gym. And so yoga has been the yoga I do is more of like the intentional stretching. Like I don't like the warrior sculpt. That stuff is not for me. I'd rather just go to like a HIIT workout for something like that. But the stretching and the, I guess, time to just be calm and like appreciate what your body can do. And it's fascinating. I'll go to a yoga class, and as my kids say, crisscross applesauce. I can't sit crisscross applesauce at the beginning of a yoga class, but at the end I can do it. So it really, there is a lot of value to being mindful about stretching and moving your body.
The warrior sculpts, which I've been to as well, I think it would be hilarious if there had been a video camera on me during that, because of for one, I couldn't even keep up with what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to be like getting weights, and it's 180 degrees.
I left. I couldn't breathe. And there's like a woman standing on like her big toe only with like her leg in the air. And I work out 7 days a week and can lift a lot of weights. But I'm like, how is she doing
I don't
that?
know.
I'm confident I could beat her in a race, though.
She must just be in there. Oh, yeah, you could run circles around her. Well, she was only about 2 feet tall, so that's part of it.
I literally left.
You could put her in your pocket
Yeah.
while you beat her in a race. So
It was the one time I contemplated not going back into a class. I was like, this is horrible.
Well, it was like a lightheaded machine. It was like, if you want to get lightheaded, go to the warrior sculpt, and you will be lightheaded, and it will not be fun. But I think, to your point, more of the vinyasa or whatever it's called, that's a better stretch. I also am a big fan of supplementing. We talked about this earlier with Scott, and that's none of it's prescription, but there's omega-3 and peptides. But the interesting thing I've learned is that you can actually have tests done, blood tests, that will come back and tell you what you actually need.
Yeah.
And then also you can test your microbiome, which is a kit you get, and sounds weird and crazy, but it's pretty interesting to know what's going on within your microbiome, which you can also supplement for.
Or you could choose to ignore it. It said that maybe red wine isn't great for me, but red wine and I have been in a deeply committed relationship.
Red wine's great for everyone.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
That was a false negative.
I was like, that's not accurate.
Yeah, I would.
Lab tests are wrong all the time.
Get a different test. That's a terrible. That machine must have been out of calibration because I have seen you drinking red wine and it always goes well.
It goes great.
Every time.
Every time.
So, okay. Well, now that we've got that covered, well, it's great to chat with you about this. Obviously, fitness is a really important part of our lives, and it's a big part of Scott's life as well. And I think his philosophy, which I think probably a lot of the folks that listen and follow the podcast are in that same boat. So I guess the net of it is get that pattern going and get out there and move, no matter what that is for you. Another thing I'll say in conclusion, Orange Theory has been really great for a traveling kind of schedule.
Fantastic.
Because pretty much every city you go to, there's an Orange Theory nearby. And it's just hard to get yourself up and doing that kind of cardio without having some structure to it.
Yeah.
So I'd say get up, move, and get started. And I think Orange Theory should sponsor the podcast. So, well, thanks so much, Emily. Appreciate your perspective as always. And thanks, everybody, for joining us for episode 20 of Boombastic Health. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great day.